So here I am at Microcenter. If you're into computer stuff or technology at all, and you've never heard of them, and you live in Columbus, Ohio, well then, you're missing out. Because there's only a few of these in the country. There's 2 in Ohio, that's it. And the other one's in Cincinnati. And I used to shop there when I lived in Xenia and when I lived in Dayton. It was like a 2.5 hour drive that I looked forward to, actually. Well, I'm here now. And the sun is kind of out. So it's a pretty day to go spend some tax money. Well, stimulus money.
All right, before we get into this video, I think it's very important that I point this out. I am not a financial advisor. Don't take advice from me unless you feel like the way I'm spending my stimulus money equates to your situation in any way. You have the opportunities to make investments. Make sure you have all the essentials. You know, you're talking about food and shelter, okay? Or you could set aside that money into an emergency fund that recently got depleted or something. I was cautious about investing into something volatile like stocks or Bitcoin. I've been trying to get into that, and I should have been learning how to do that like 10, 15 years ago. And even though they're at all-time lows right now, and that would be a good place and time to buy, this is kind of sort of like bonus money for me. And money that I was planning on saving up and spending anyway. So I decided to reinvest into myself and the work that I'm doing to provide content for you guys. Also, one of my friends asked me in person, thank you, heart shapes, why I talk about Amazon affiliate links a lot and not other websites. It's not like I don't shop at other websites, and this video will be proof of that. Amazon is one of the many places that I shop at. And that I'm going to pick on that person a little bit because they should have asked me in the comments below, because then other people could join in on the conversation. But besides all that, let's get into this interesting and unplanned video, because I didn't actually expect to get my stimulus check that soon. And so I spent all weekend filming and editing it for you guys so that you can get it. So it might help you plan what you're doing with your money. Again, if you don't have extra money right now, don't spend it on computer parts like I am.
Come with me. Let's go shopping. We'll get stuff and things and make up ratings. Just you and me. Apparently, YouTube especially. So, they're making me wait. They got these social distancing cones, and you stand there, and someone asks for your name, and they put it down on a list, and then they text you when they're ready for you to come in the store. And they say it could be up to an hour. But I've got an hour and 10 minutes till the store closes, so I should be good. He said I was guaranteed to be able to get in. It's pretty good that they're still operating, considering the human malware. I was going to bring my camera in originally, but with all the people hanging out on front, reinvest and all that, I was like, better not. Microcenter is usually pretty cool about people recording, at least in California, from the YouTubers I watch. But I'm going to head to Kroger and get a couple things so I'm not sitting idle. Buzz. And then I'm going to go in and get my stuff. I'm still at Kroger, but I was halfway through getting a couple things I was going to get, and I got a text from Microcenter. They originally texted me that you've been added to the list at 5:49 p.m. And then they said, voila, it's your turn at Microcenter. Please proceed to store entrance immediately. Reply cancel if you can't make it. I got that at 6:07. So 18 minutes, not too bad. And they said as long as I'm back by 7. It's 6:17 now. I'll be fine. I just got out of there. They're starting to clean up their cones. See, they only have cones right by the entrance, not over on the side anymore, because they're not taking any more waiters. I mean, waiters. People to wait to go in. Whatever. Check it out. I got my stuff. I've got a bag here, and RIP headphones users listening to me wrestle with the bag. I've got an SSD, the new kind. Focus! Focus! Sweet. I've got drum roll, a Ryzen CPU. I got a 3600, and I got a motherboard in there. Yeah, believe that. Upgrading my editing PC. More to come. More info on what I bought and why.
What's up, peeps? These are blue blocking glasses, by the way, and I'm going to be doing a review of them this week, so get subscribed if you want to see that. They've been helping to reduce my headaches because I've been doing a lot of YouTube work as well as my IT support work, and I'm on the computer more. But about the computer build that I've been wanting to do for myself, I've been wanting to do this for a while. I was actually saving up money, part of my tax money from this year, and then I was cutting back on a couple of things, like buying a little bit less groceries, and also I changed my car insurance, and there were a couple of other things. But what happened was my son had to get braces. Hashtag adult problems, but I'm happy to do it. It gives me the heart shapes that I get to do something that my family had to do for me when I was a kid. But then the stimulus check came. I wasn't expecting that. But I'll use it, and I had to use it wisely. I'm going to show you how I'm doing that. There's a website that I learned about from some other YouTubers called PCPartPicker.com. And this first parts list that I have here is one that I started with a few months ago. I think March or something, maybe February even, of some parts that I was getting. The plan was to upgrade the motherboard, CPU, RAM, and cooler in my system after upgrading the GPU or graphics card. I've already done that. That's on previous videos, and benchmarks to come. I have been working on them. Check this out. This is a website where you can go like this and hit System Builder and start new if you have one already in there, and then you choose them, and there's little filters so you can make sure all the parts are compatible, and it's really fast, and it's faster than the websites that you shop at, like Amazon or Newegg or something. And then once you know all the parts you want, then you go on all the different websites. And basically, last night, I was winding down. I just did 8 full hours of my work shift at home, and then did a couple hours of editing, went to do my budget, logged into my bank account, and was like, what's all this extra monies? Where do these extra monies come from? Oh yeah, the stimulus check. I got mine already. You know why I got mine already? Because I filed online already. So if you file online and you give them your checking account routing number so that they can give you direct deposit, that's how you get your stimulus check faster. So my old list had the Ryzen 7 2700X. That is a modest price there. And it's a second generation CPU. And then that's a liquid cooler. And what that is, a liquid cooler, if you don't know, that's a pump, a reservoir, and a radiator. It's got water in it. And water is more efficient at cooling things down. There's a motherboard I was looking at with a B450 chipset. And what the chipset is, it's under this thing. It communicates between all the different things on the motherboard. And then the memory. And I was actually looking forward to finally getting some RGB memory, which have some lights coming off of your memory. I do like the way mine look in there, though, but whatever. And then I was looking forward to upgrading to a faster SSD type. You see how this looks? And what an SSD is a solid state drive. That means it's storage inside of your computer instead of using a hard drive, which has moving parts, and you have to wait for those parts to move to get your files. And then you got the video card, which I already bought. and then this case. And my thought with this case was to take all of these existing parts, put them in the case, and have another computer so I can have two computers processing something at the same time, possibly. For example, if I need something rendered, but I want to keep editing. And then the power supply. And I use a power supply calculator and then add 150 watts to that so that you have enough headroom in case one of your parts is demanding more power for whatever reason. But then, while doing my research, I found out that the B450 motherboards disable SATA slots if you're using an M.2 device. So what that means is that if you have this new type of SSD, like this, then it will disable your SATA ports. Not all of them, one or two. These are what SATA ports look like on your motherboard. It's what modern hard drives and SSDs plug into, like that. So this is that motherboard, B450, and it's the chipset itself, not that manufacturer, not MSI's fault. Before I was 100% sure I wanted to buy it. I recommend you do this on motherboards. You watch YouTube reviews, and you also read the manual. So if I go here to the manual and go to the English one and hit download, it says right here, that motherboard only has 4. So storage, SATA 5 and SATA 6 ports will be unavailable. This will be okay for most people. But it says they'll be turned off, basically, if you have an M.2 device in an M.2 slot. Oh, this thing has 3 hard drives and 1 SSD. That's 4. And also has 2 CD-ROMs. That's 6. I'm using all 6 of my SATA ports. Well, I could then maybe remove one of these CD-ROMs, right? No. I'm so retro. No. I always got to be able to copy a DVD if I have to copy a DVD. I don't mean copying a movie DVD. I'm not talking about piracy. I'm not going down that hole with you guys. So what I had done is I looked up the comparison to see if there's anything else I needed to be concerned about. So the B450 was the one I was looking at, right? And there's X370, X470. And then I saw this. And I know from watching YouTube reviews, that means that someday I could upgrade my M.2 SSD to a super fast one, and also my GPU to a super fast one, when 3.0 is old. But look at that. All of these other ones got 2.0. Like, yeah, I want the 4.0. Yes, please. Moving on to the next one, which is possible editing PCV2. This website's so cool. It only took me an hour last night to figure out these parts. And then the next half an hour to buy the different parts off of 3 different websites. This is the CPU I got, which I went to cpu.userbenchmark.com, put AMD Ryzen 7 2700X into that box, and there it is. You click it. This is where you compare it with another one. So like if you want to compare it to the Ryzen 7 3700X, and I was watching a video by Bitwit. Highly recommend it. He goes over through some different pairings of GPUs with CPUs. I'll put a link to that in the description. Basically, there are only 2 CPUs that he talked about in that one, which was the 3700X and the 1600AF. And I wanted one in the middle. So what I did was 2700X, 3700X, 3rd gen, 2nd gen, right? And then you look down here, scroll down, you see this one's 12% better. That's not much. 18% on that. It's like all the different specs, what's better or whatever. And then I put, there's a 1600 AF right there. Okay. 30%, 24%. What about something in between? Because I didn't want to spend $293 on a CPU. See, that one's $85. And again, I have an affiliate link to that in the description. Let's try the Ryzen 5 3600. 22, 16, 200. Look at that, 202%. They're probably talking about like price per performance, market share, popular, whatever. So what about comparing the 2700X? $200. This is actually better because it's a newer generation. See that? 3600. What about the 3700X? 293. I'm not spending $300, but 5%, not that much better. See, these numbers are small, so it's definitely a good deal for $170. That's why I chose that one. And then I was thinking of getting this cooler, but I ended up getting this one. I was thinking an NZXT build because I wanted to make an NZXT build, but then I remembered I wanted to keep it in this Corsair case. That's the only reason I went with the Corsair cooler instead. And this is the motherboard I got, the X570. And there were a few different ones, but I got it because it had the red accents. And when I looked at the specs of this, I actually looked at it on their website. Newegg's also really good for the pictures, because you click on the picture, you've got the spinny roundy kind. I love anything that's spinny roundy. You can zoom in. Check out the back of this thing. I'm like, what are all these things, right? So I loaded up their manual on their website, and I'm going to mention a couple really important pages. I'm going to start with page 21, because this is really important if you don't know how to do it, how to change the CPU cooler out and stuff. Page 21, and how to mount the motherboard and everything. If you're a noob, MSI's instruction manuals are really awesome. And if you don't want MSI and you want a different brand, you can check out their manual online before you even buy it to see if it's got enough information for you to get started on your build. Okay, so first of all, page 21, this explains the chipset. So here's the CPU and how, because of the new PCI and everything, because of this new chipset, the CPU can talk directly to this GPU if it's plugged into the top slot, and it can talk directly to an M.2 SSD if it's in the top slot. And then it actually has to go through this chipset to talk to the SATA bus, which has all your SSDs and hard drives into it, the other M.2 slot, other USB stuff, the Ethernet port. But it's an interesting thing because the chipset has different ways to direct traffic, and it depends on how the motherboard manufacturer wants to use it on that specific motherboard. I think that's really cool that they put these charts in there now. And there's your BIOS flashback. And what that is that if you get a motherboard that is older than the CPU you want to use, then you can flash the BIOS program on the motherboard without a CPU being actually in it. Because if you don't have BIOS flashback, you have to borrow an older CPU, boot it up in the BIOS by pressing delete on your keyboard while it's turning on, and have a file on your flash drive plugged in and go into menu and choose it. But if you have BIOS flashback, you have the same file that you got off like MSI or whoever's website on the flash drive. You plug it into whatever port they say, which specific USB port, so it'd be this one in this case, and you hit that button. And instructions are in here how to do it, so that you can update the program on the motherboards to run the newer CPU. The next page I'd like to mention is page 25. This is something to look for depending on your needs. Is that all this stuff? It's like you have to think about all the stuff that you're thinking of plugging in, write it down on a piece of paper or whatever you're going to do. And one of the things that jumped out to me were all the USB ports. It has 2 USB 2 things, which I need because I have this case customized to have more USB ports on the back. And it has 2 USB 3 slots. That's amazing. I can mod my case to have another USB 3 port on the back. And then we've also got 6 SATA ports. You can see them right here. And then we've got 2 M.2 slots. We got this one, and we got this one. And what that is where you put the little thing I showed you in there. Here's an example of one. See, there's where it plugs in and there's where it screws down. And that goes in right there. There's a little hole where you screw it down. And we also have both kinds of RGB. So if I wanted to put the new RGB puke, blah, whatever, into there, I would have this one for addressable and this one for addressable, and then the old kind, I would have one at the top There it is, right there. So that means I got one of each on the top and one of each on the bottom. Because there's a thing that if you don't have like one of each, or even just one of one, it's really a pain in the neck to get it all hooked up. Say you wanted lights here and lights there and lights there. Say if you had a fan that had addressable RGB on it, then you would have to plug it and daisy chain and have a little controller thing. Well, this gives you the ability to have, if you're only doing one kind, you have two. And if you're doing both, you have four. So that might, in most cases, remove your need to buy a $30 or $50 little controller thing that's about the size of a SATA SSD to stick somewhere in your computer to control the lights. Let your motherboard control the lights. And the next thing is page 29, and we're going to be talking about this slot. 3rd gen AMD Ryzen. So that's one of the deciding factors for why I bought a 3rd gen Ryzen instead of an older one, is so that I'm already ready for that. Usually CPU is not something I upgrade. I did on my first music editing PC. I bought it because AMD was talking about coming out with dual core later. It was an AMD FX something. I can't remember which, or I could be wrong. No, my second editing PC. And it's the one that's down there. It says right here that slot, if you're using one of the older CPUs, is only a 3.0 by 8. That means it's got less lanes. By 16 means all of the capabilities of your graphics card. It could communicate faster because it's using 16 lanes to go to the CPU. So imagine a freeway that has 16 lanes and your car is super wide and it's 16 wide, but it has to be broken in half and only half of it can drive on the road. So that means you have to drive to work twice just to get to work. It's a funny explanation, but you can just think of it that way. The more lanes, the better. And then you got PCI Express number 3. Let's look at the picture here. Slot 1, slot 2, slot 3. Right? So it's going to be a by 4. A 4.0 by 4. That means I have another 4.0 slot. And it's 3.0 by 4. That's cool. It doesn't say anything about it changing. Like the motherboard I have right now, if you put a graphics card in the first slot, it disables something in another slot or whatever. So something to think about if you're super duper poor people like me, and super duper tight budget, know what you absolutely have to have, and then read the motherboard manual, and then you'll know if that motherboard will do it for you or not. This one did. It was just complicated and trying to remember where to plug in certain things. Moving on, we've got page 30, which shows where the M.2 slots are, and that they're PCI Express 4.0 on the top one and 3.0 on the bottom one, depending on what CPU you have plugged in. And it's also got instructions of how to mount it. And I've actually already read this manual, the physical manual that came with the motherboard, and it's very clear. I had to go back and forth between that and the actual physical funny little screws that come in the box, and I figured it out within 10 minutes. Page 33, and this is not going to be for most people, this thing, but it's got 2 power connectors that power the CPU. You're probably only going to need this one, which is most power supplies come with that. This is if you're have a super expensive like $300 or $500 CPU and you want to do extreme overclocking. You also need to put power to this slot. And then page 35, your USB 3 connectors, and it says 3.2 Gen 1. So we go back to here on Newegg, and it says 3.2 Gen 2 Type C and 3.2 Gen 2 Type A. That's what that is. And so that means that this motherboard does not have 3.2 Gen 2 slot on the motherboard to put a front panel USB-C. So I'm going to do a Google image search, USB 3.2 Gen 2 motherboard. Oh, this is a good picture one right there. That looks completely different. Just keep that in mind if that's something you need for the case you're getting. And then we got page 38. This is something that was a little disappointing to me, is that it doesn't have a clear CMOS button, because I like being able to open the case and press the button. That's where your computer can't boot up and you can't figure out why. And it's because it's hard to explain. Electricity is stuck in the motherboard and it won't clear out. And there's a way to clear it. And in this case, You just have to jumper, which means connect these 2 pins. I know how to do that. That's fine. I can even buy a wire off of a website to plug there and put a button on the other end, so I can just open the case and hit a button. Some motherboards have a button on the back where this BIOS flashback is. But this part's really cool, the debug LED. Because on my motherboard, it's like down here. And if I have a card right here, it's blocking it. What that is if your computer can't turn on, before you clear CMOS, you could see what letters and numbers this says and Google it. Put in the model of your motherboard and Google it. It's like, what the heck is going on with my stuff? Tell me the things. It's like, your CPU is not slotted in right, or the memory is loose, or the memory is bad. It really cuts down troubleshooting time by hours, trust me. So let's go to the next thing, the memory. This motherboard does support the 3600 speed, which is really, really good for Ryzen chips, especially the 1st gen and 2nd gen. 3rd gen is less picky, but that faster speed is obviously going to be great for less latency and better performance. And I went ahead and got 4 sticks because, honestly, I just want to buy RAM and be done with RAM. This motherboard supports 128 gigabytes of RAM. I don't ever think I'd ever use that much. I barely use the 32 in here, and that's when I have like 3 or 4 virtual machines running, and each one of them is using some of it, like 4 gigs each. But maybe someday I'll get more, but that's way too much money. Look at this price. I'm spending that around that much on my RAM. The next thing is the M.2 drive. So if I go to here, change this to ssd.userbenchmark.com, and compare possible editing PC. I had a Samsung 970 Pro 512. That's the right one. And then click any random one to compare. And then I changed that to Samsung 970 Evo 500. That's the Evo Plus. I did see that Evo Plus earlier, and I was almost thinking of buying that. $120 versus $150 for the Pro. Okay, it's only $30 difference. And this is only 7% better. This is 97% better on value and sentiment. 8% better on nice to have features. But I'll go back to the 970 Evo, not without the plus on it. $100, okay? 15%. There's still small improvements. This is 1% better for value. 14% better there. I'm like, okay, $20, I don't need that for my first entry-level M.2 SSD for me. So I thought, what about the SSD I'm using right now? How much better than that is that one? So I need to go to disk management. I'll wait a billion years for it to connect to virtual disk service. Like, for crying out loud, Microsoft. You're already connected to it. You're already running the things. How are you making me connect to this virtual disk service if you're already connected to all the things? Let's just skip to the part where it's loaded. Whoa, it actually loaded when I clapped. Ha ha ha. So it's the C drive. It's right there. It's this one. Right click and hit properties. And that's going to be, I'm going to use my Windows button or run prompt so I can type it out so I can copy paste it. 860 Pro 5112. So this is the one that I bought. And this is, there we go. There it is. They're still selling that for $150. Still. Are you serious? It's not M.2, and it's older. Q1 2018. This is newer by 1 quarter. 144% faster for $50 less. The thing is, you just need a CPU and a motherboard that supports it. And you're already doing that, get one. It would be stupid not to. Look at hugely faster speeds. If you guys want benchmarks when I put this together, yeah, get subscribed because I'm going to be doing that. Look at that. That's amazing. So moving on to the next thing. Got the 1660 Super, which I already own. and I'm going to be doing a separate video about why I got that model, but it's a lot of performance for under $300. And you got this computer case, which I've been drooling at on all the videos when they do NZXT. They're just so clean. On all the videos I see on YouTube, it looks so clean. I'm just like, oh my god, it's gorgeous! I just want to stick my blue motherboard in there with some blue accents or whatever to accent that red strip. Heart shapes. It's giving me the heart shapes. That's why I want it. And then we've got the power supply, 750 watt. And I'm also going to link this in the description of this calculator. I highly recommend you do this if you're building a PC. AMD Ryzen 5 3600. You go into this site. It's outervision.com/power-supply-calculator. Link in the description. I never remember. I just Google it. Excuse me. I burped it. I Google it. Power supply calculator. 3600. Boop. And then you go to, I'm getting 4 8 gig sticks. And then I got my 1660 Ti in there because they don't have a 1660 Super in the list. That one uses a little bit more power. And then storage, got one M.2 SSD. I'm going to have one SATA SSD. And then 3 7200 RPMs hard drives. And then I'm going to have 2 Blu-ray drives. Well, one of them's not Blu-ray, but who cares? Doesn't use much more power. And 1 high-end sound card. Keyboard and mouse. And this is how many USB things I have because of all this lights and cameras and USB hubs and things going on. This is how many fans are in this PC. I have a liquid cooling kit, and it's a Corsair or something. What's it? H100 maybe? I can't remember. Liquid cooling pump. No, I don't have an additional pump. Just this kit. 2 17-inch monitors. Use 8 hours per day at the most. And then calculate. And that's 545. So you always want to add about 150. So that would be about 700. So always add 150 to give you enough headroom. So you don't want to burn out part of your power supply because reasons. So that if you want a more detailed review of how I go through all of these, I will be posting another video probably next week. Get subscribed to see that, where I do a super cheap build. If I go to save parts list and super cheap version, where you actually get to see me go through this whole thing. Moving on to the things and where I bought them all. I got some stuff at Microcenter, and they have the ability for you to pay for it and then go pick it up, and that's what I decided to do. So I changed it to my store location, and then I signed in. So I'm not going to show you that part. Lol. Stop trying to hack my stuff by trying to see me type things. So I got the CPU, the motherboard, and the SSD. And so that total was $446. And the reason why I got it here versus Amazon or Newegg or somewhere was price and availability. I'm not going to say who had what at what price and who didn't have something when someone else. I don't want to get into people complaining about one website versus another. But I got those 3 there. And I'm not allowed to show you pictures off of Amazon because I'm an Amazon affiliate. But I got my memory off of there, and it was a good price. This memory says here it was $219. It was around that. So I was happy to pay the amount they had. But they're going to email me with an ETA. And that's because of the human malware. It might take a while. And if my motherboard comes early, I'm going to have to steal the memory off of my Bitcoin mining machine. The cooler will come between April 24th and 26th. And if I look at my calendar, hopefully it comes when Charlie's here so we can build the machine. And I also got a wireless keyboard, and I'll be doing a review about that. And an explanation about what keyboard I got and why. It's a mechanical keyboard. It's super cheap. It's a generic, and it's a knockoff. Hey, I'm poor people here. Budget. Ooh, I just gleeked on my desk. It's going to be cool because I found keyboard switches that are similar to the ones I like. And there's reasons why I got that one. And there's a place where I learned about that keyboard on the YouTube channel. I'm talking about all of that in a future video. Get subscribed. And I got the case for $70 before taxes and shipping off of Newegg, which is that price right there. And I didn't buy the power supply at all because this thing already has a power supply in it. And when I build the other machine, I'm going to see if I can afford to buy a power supply at that point. I hate postponing, but I'm super cheap. That's the way it is. I'm done with this video. This is all about me upgrading this machine and why and how I learned about all the parts and how to fit them all together and make them match up on the internet easier than I have ever done before. In the past, this was insane. I had to use Newegg was a new resource. It wasn't always there. I had to research all over the place to find parts, find what's compatible. Oh, this ATX means this, and PCI Express, whatever, blah, blah, blah means this, and this card does this, and that memory doesn't work on that motherboard because of this. You had to read this chart, and it would literally take me months, like 3 months, to figure out all parts to get. And then I would buy the parts one at a time, saying, okay, I've decided on this part. I'll wait a couple paychecks and get the next part, which I might still do these days. But PC Part Picker is freaking amazing. They do all the work for me. So kudos to them. And these 3 different builds I'm going to have linked in the description, because on PC Part Picker you can actually save your parts lists. And look forward to a video where I go over the super cheap version, because I was thinking in the back of my mind, if I had less money than I had budgeted for this build, what would I have done? And I'm also going over that in a future video, so get subscribed if you want to see that. Thank you for watching this video, and look forward to some more videos with my son and some goofy stuff where I talk to other me/me part 2 in future videos. I've been Robert Jene. I'm signing out. Bye.